Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and today I'm going to bring you several different audio clips that have I either found today or were brought to my attention in different ways. And the first one I'm going to start with, this is I can't remember if I played this or not, but it's worth hearing a second time if I did. This was from Anthony Pompliano's interview of Catherine Coley, who's the CEO of Binance US. And used to work at Ripple. It's a 46-second clip that I think, because she was one of the people that was in charge of trying to bring more liquidity to XRP, and I think it's very significant for you to hear.
Or institutional liquidity. Describe a little bit about like what the goal of that team would be.
Yeah, so we were a scrappy team that was really, our purpose was to make XRP as liquid as possible. One of the things in order for it to work through the system was that it would be the conduit between transactions around the world. And if you looked at FX being that conduit around the world, that average volume a day was like 5 to 6 trillion. Mm-hmm. So if we were going to be able to make transactions of that quality go through, you would need to have a much more liquid mechanism. So that's where you can either see the price rising to accommodate for the volume necessary, or you can see the liquidity increasing for volume necessary to handle.
And I'm sure Anthony Pompliano was just stunned at what he was hearing. But anyway, so, okay, now that was from Master Control Program. That's who sent me that. Now, here's a few clips. I do not think I've seen this before, but this XRP yo-yo is all of a sudden bringing all kinds of video out. I have a hunch that XRP yo-yo might be someone that knows things. I've been seeing a lot of tweets come out, and this guy's out of nowhere, guy or girl is out of nowhere, and all of a sudden a lot of intriguing things coming. Now, we've played on this channel before Glenn Hutchins and the SEC chairman Jay Clayton. Well, at first when I saw this, I thought it was the one that I had shown before, but it's not. And they specifically talk about XRP. I think it's from earlier. But listen, there's 3 clips here, and it's worth hearing all of them. This is Jay Clayton.
This technology has incredible promise in the infrastructure. Look, I think it has incredible promise in infrastructure beyond our securities markets, shipping, countless other places where, a verified record is something that we spend a lot of money making sure we have, and the efficiencies added by distributed ledger technology, we can bring that. Look, in government, I can remember as a young kid going down to the registrar's office with my grandfather because properties and liens and everything had to be registered. How many debt deals have you done where you had to refile all the UCCs, where you had to ensure that you had liens on property and
happily we always had lawyers to do that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. But
I'm told they did it well. They did it well.
And you know what? Your bill would be much smaller if you brought.
That's a good point.
Your bill would be much smaller if you brought distributed ledger technology to that aspect of our financial system. So there are all sorts of aspects of our financial system where I see this type of technology driving efficiency.
Got it. And that's something which, as the person responsible for the efficient functioning of the U.S. markets, broadly defined, you are optimistic about and prepared to encourage.
Without a doubt. Look, my lens is how can we improve what we're doing in no way degrading investor protection? That's kind of how I look at a lot of what's going on, whether it's trading or issuance or other aspects of what we do at the SEC.
Like you described, a permanent, what we describe in this role as a permanent immutable record subject to audit. That serves your purpose as well, I would imagine.
Serves our purposes very well.
So let's move on from the infrastructure element of this world to currencies. You said when currencies act as a replacement, when digital assets act as a replacement for a sovereign currency, dollar, yen, or
okay. Now, there's a couple of things. I'm going to show you the next two parts to this, but I want you to be thinking about something. The first thing I want to bring to your attention in this video is, if we can get to here, and this doesn't just go from this video, but it goes for the other one that we've seen before, where Glenn Hutchins is talking to Jay Clayton. Glenn Hutchins talks, in fact, he's even, if you notice in the chair, something that I learned a long time ago, and you may not know this. Many businessmen, when they have meetings with other businessmen, some of them actually have their like businessmen that have their own office. It is a known practice that some of them intentionally have their chair set to be higher than the chair is of the guy that's coming to their office to meet with them, so that they're on a higher. They're literally physically looking down to them, because it's a psychological thing. Now, look at how he's sitting here. But more important than that, if you watch his body language, Glenn Hutchins is no Yahoo. This guy, and remember, this guy's he's on the board of the Digital Currency Group, and Larry Summers is one of the advisors. I mean, these guys are big timers. They're not just jacklegs, okay? Jay Clayton's actually, I mean, if you look at them, he's kind of a young man compared to this guy. But I want you, just the body language of the way Glenn Hutchins is not talking to him like, hey, Mr. SEC Chairman. No, he's talking almost like he's the authority, and I think he is. And here's the other thing. These guys, they know each other. All of this is just like it's almost like a staged conversation. And remember, against the backdrop of all of this guy, Jay Clayton, the SEC has shut down companies that had, quote, ICOs, all right? More than one. They have never been willing to weigh in on whether XRP is a security. And I believe it's like Cryptopolis says. I believe it's because you can't regulate what you can't define. And as long as you don't define it, you can do things, and things can happen that can't happen otherwise. I believe that's everything that it's about. So let's go and watch part 2 and 3 of this.
Securities, because they seem to be without central third parties and highly decentralized networks. The issue of the moment is, of course, what is XRP? Runs on the Ripple network. There are a lot of people in this audience who would like to know, but I think it's I know from long-standing practice, the SEC does not talk about matters that are in front of them at the moment. So I'm not going to ask you that. Not going to ask you that because I know you won't give me an answer. And it's not just you; it's all your predecessors wouldn't give me the answer either. I get it. Don't worry.
I'm no better than they are.
But what's the process by which this is determined, and the timing? When does the marketplace know the outcome of this really important question? Because as you know, Ripple right now is the second largest market cap token after Bitcoin.
I think I'll go back to what I said, is that we are open to people coming in to see us, engage with us, discuss their particular situation, and work through it with us. And some of the, I will tell you, some of these questions, require a lot of information in order to get to a definitive position.
Right.
Many are very obvious. I'm selling you my token. I'm going to go off and produce a venture, and hopefully you'll get a return for having purchased that token.
And I assume, like at other these situations, having a consistency of message as between the SEC and your investors is probably an important kind of starting point.
Yeah, let me just say this: we're very, very open to people coming in to see us. But I hope it doesn't come as a surprise that when you tell us about your approach, that what you tell us is the same thing you're telling people who you want to invest in your venture. If there's a big gap between what you're telling us and the way you're marketing your venture,
it's not a good place to start.
It's not a good place to start.
Okay, everybody taking notes out there got that one down. But just like in a classic securities offering, get yourself a good.
Okay, and here is part 3
on those exchanges.
Well, let's see how this evolves.
Okay, got it. And then on the custody piece of it, I assume that looks just more like a technical problem inside the industry where the custody tools and technologies need to be improved and hardened.
Yeah, and look, I think we've seen some thefts around digital assets that, make you scratch your head.
Gotcha. Okay. So one last question. I think we're basically out of time, but I'm going to continue with one last question.
I'm a captive audience.
So you've talk about how you've built capacity at the SEC to understand the digital currency ecosystem. I know you have a group here in New York. You recently announced the launch of the FinHub that will focus on issues related to ICOs and digital assets. What's the purpose of the FinHub? What role do you see it playing in this space going forward, and how can the folks in this room interact with it?
It's there to provide a centralized resource for people from the private sector who want to interact with us and see what we have been doing in this space to date. It's basically a conduit to contact the SEC.
Okay. And how do folks here find that? It's available online?
Yes, www.sec.gov.
And it's a guide, as a way for them to come into your system.
Come into our system, understand our perspective, get more flesh on the bones of the issues you and I have been discussing today.
Okay, great. So are you going to answer the first question? Are you long Bitcoin? Jay, thank you very much for taking the...
All right, I thought those were interesting videos worth your hearing. Okay, XRP Bart sent me this. The liquidity in the XRP is spiking again. We've got it today so far. This is the XRP AUD on BTC markets. Today so far, 15 million. All-time high is 14. And then also, this is from Bitso XRP MXN. Today, so far, 33.1 million, and the all-time high is 33.5. So you can see that spiking. Now, this is interesting, sent to me from BAXRP at Learn Bioscience. Sent me this video. This is from, no, I didn't even talk about it, but yesterday evening, we had a crash in the crypto markets. Everything crashed. That was kind of to be expected. And in fact, I think I did a video the other day where usually these halving events, the appreciation historically has happened in the following period of time after the halving, not before. And I figured that something like that would happen. But I want to show you this video. It says XRP from New Creation Capital. XRP showing 9,800 during the correction tonight. Tell me something is going on behind the scenes right now. Did we just see the real price of XRP? XRP Army, tell me what you think. I'm not weighing in one way or the other on what I think, but I just wanted to show the video because I thought it was interesting. You can see right here, it's going back and forth from 9,866 to 21 cents. I thought that was a pretty interesting piece of video. All right, and then Jim Rickards had tweeted this out. Here's a transcript of an IMF briefing yesterday. It's long and geeky as might be expected, but halfway through, they say, I think as an institution, as the IMF, we still see merit in exploring what can be done in terms of SDRs. And he says, world money is coming. I thought that was very interesting. Then Stewart XRP had posted this. Joshua Downer, Senior Product Counsel at Ripple Experience, manage relationships with more than a dozen financial services law firms in various jurisdictions, including U.S., UK, Japan, Singapore, Australia, Canada, Brazil, Mexico, Thailand. It's a position that they're hiring at Ripple. Now, I've been telling you all over the last few weeks that XRP and Stellar are going to be in this game. And I've shown you this. And remember, Stellar is working with IBM. IBM's World Wire uses Stellar. Right here, you'll see this is Interledger enabling interoperability across platforms 2020 to 2025, XRP Ledger. Right here, you have IBM Trade Finance. IBM is working on a more enterprise part of this. Now, I could not remember if I had ever shown any of you what IBM World Wire is. And then I found some other videos that have to do with this that I want to show you. So let's watch this is IBM World Wire.
It's unacceptable that there's 2 billion people in the world who don't have access.
And by the way, that is Jesse Lund, who no longer heads IBM's blockchain, but did, and he's the one that's right there.
To financial services. It's totally unacceptable. It turns out that with the traditional global payment infrastructure, it's actually more efficient to stuff $10,000 in a FedEx envelope and FedEx it. We should not be FedExing money. That's a terrible idea. But that's why it's so ridiculous that modern technology hasn't provided a way to optimize the movement of money around the world, right? When it becomes more efficient to FedEx cash, something is wrong. It would be awesome if every bank in the world had a correspondent bank account with every other bank in the world, but that's just not realistic. That's not feasible, at least not until now. If everybody is using a distributed ledger, a shared ledger, we now have the capacity to represent bank balances on each other in one system. And that's really where the efficiencies come, as you eliminate these hops, these intermediaries, because now every bank conceptually has a relationship with every other bank in the world. So we built a system that envisions that ultimate outcome. We call that system World Wire. So World Wire is a network of networks that is built on top of the Stellar protocol, which provides a blockchain protocol that is tailored and tuned for the transfer of value and for the store of value through the issuance of many different types of digital assets. We chose Stellar because it has thought about scalability. It's rethought the underlying mechanics, and some of them are quite complex. You know, when you think of distributed computing and consensus algorithms, these are, not trivial things. The other benefit of Stellar provides an amazingly simple way to issue digital assets, which is really paramount to the use and the vision behind the World Wire system. Stellar provides a good bridge for us between this purely private network and this completely open Wild West network that we know as Bitcoin, where we can actually create a subnetwork, if you will, where we can enforce certain rules on the participants, but not give up the transparency and the openness of having an open network. Global payments, at least in the markets where we're starting, which is small value, retail, remittance payments, this needs to be open. It needs to be transparent because there's thousands of players who could come to the network and add value. The experience of working with Stellar has been really good and has been very well received. I think there have been a number of iterations or experiments or technologies that have come about since the advent of Bitcoin, since the light bulb went off, and I think Stellar got it right at the right time. Imagine a world where everybody has money. What does that world look like? And a lot of people in the world don't have money, not because they don't have good ideas, but because they don't have access to the networks where the money is exchanged. And that's what we're trying to do, is break those barriers down. So when you combine all of what Stellar does and all of what IBM is trying to do with World Wire, and you put those together, now all of a sudden you have a capability that has the potential to really change the world, to have an impact on humanity, and I think that's really cool.
All right, I thought that was a very good foundation to give you in what World Wire is. And I want to make the point that all of this is going to happen together. Let's go back. Let's look back. You've got IBM Trade. They're focused on enterprise. Now, let's go and show you. This is a video that I found of the same guy, Jesse Lund. This is IBM Blockchain from March 29th of, no, Stellar uploaded that on March 20th of 2019. Then on March 29th of 2019, he was at this SXSW speaking, and at the 40, let's see, I think it was the 43:20 mark that I was at, somewhere in here.
That should be in the public domain. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Jesse, I'm very excited about the global World Wire.
World Wire,
but
yeah.
will this be tackling the same challenge as the Ripple network?
Great question. So the question is this World Wire thing kind of like Ripple? Here's the thing. Whenever I talk to people, I don't know what it is with Ripple, but people want to beat up on Ripple. Let's credit Ripple for the things that they've done, for introducing the world to this potential where a digital asset could serve as a bridge or an intermediary to help payments and money move. World Wire is different than that. One of the unique attributes of World Wire is our focus on ecosystem. IBM's never going to be an issuer of a coin, a stable coin or a digital currency. That's not our goal. We want to be the network operator. We want to do what we're good at, which is to be the infrastructure player and the technology provider for new networks like this. So World Wire, you'll see, is a lot different and unique from anything else that's ever been announced. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, wanted to show you that part. Now, I also found this interesting clip right here. This is a guy with the World Bank that was on Bloomberg, November 10th, 2019. Just a short clip I wanted to show you here.
A controversial proposal saying that perhaps we should have a digital reserve currency. What's your take on that? Does it seem viable to you?
Well, let's think that, I mean, everything has changed very, very fast. And 1 year ago, we were not talking about the stablecoins. The stablecoins didn't exist. So if thinking on this festival 1 year ago, we were talking about different things. Today, we are talking about the stablecoins. Next year, I don't know what will be the topic that we will be talking about. Maybe it's what McCartney says. But I think that it is very incipient. We know that we are going in that direction, that we will end up in a situation that actually this will be the new modus operandi. No? But I think that we are still in an incipient phase.
Now, I wanted to bring home the point of what I'm showing here. That's where this is going. The Stellar and XRP Ledger, there's going to be stable coins and tokens that are launched off of both of these networks. And even though IBM itself is not going to be issuing stable coins, if you watch, he said in this that IBM's not going to be launching them. But that doesn't mean Stellar is not going to, because in this video where they're talking about World Wire, they're talking about Stellar creating digital assets. And finally, I found another video, and this is kind of off topic, but it's still a video you need to see. This is a Professor Gregory LeBlanc on May 14th, 2018. He's giving a presentation to it's Berkeley Haas Alumni Network. I think he's speaking to his students, but look what he talks about.
That's not including the spread. Okay, so look, Western Union isn't going to go out of business anytime soon. They're going to adopt different technologies. Okay, but this is where the big money is. It's not in remittances. It's in these business-to-business payments across border. And that's why we have these kinds of companies like Ripple and Stellar. This is all about, right, business-to-business, back-end, big volume transactions, which are currently very expensive. So if we look at the payment system, they're not sitting at the you're sending money back to your uncle, right? It is, right, at the bank level. So the banks are making transactions with other banks. Now, nothing's changed here. You're still doing something like correspondent banking, except now, because the data can move around more quickly than the money moves around, right? We can settle these things more quickly. So the difference between a Bitcoin and a Ripple, in a nutshell, again, not too much time to elaborate, is that what Bitcoin uses is an open, permissionless, distributed ledger system, right, where anybody can jump in and do a transaction. Right? That's kind of the beauty of it. I can go buy Bitcoin, you can go buy Bitcoin. We don't need to ask anybody's permission, and there's no middleman that can, accept or deny, approve or reject. It's distributed, the consensus around validating these transactions. What's different about systems like Ripple and most of the blockchain systems that will prevail is that they are permissioned, meaning that you have to a member, and membership has its privileges. And so you have these different nodes, and the nodes basically know one another. Okay, and then if I want to give money to my uncle back in France, let's say, then I have to go to one of these banks that are a member of the Ripple network, and then my uncle will go to one of these banks that's a member of the Ripple network, and then those banks will do their transacting through this distributed ledger. Okay? Okay.
Okay, I thought that was an interesting. Now, it's also interesting that this is Berkeley Haas. If you remember, Berkeley Haas partnered with Ripple to accelerate innovation in blockchain and cryptocurrency with the University Blockchain Research Initiative. If you remember, there's Berkeley Haas, one of the academic partners. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that Berkeley Haas is a partner with Ripple in the University Blockchain Research Initiative. And that was an interesting little clip. Thanks for listening.